When you have a trinomial that looks like this, where the minus sign is between the second and the third terms, there's some things that we can do to make this an easier factorization. If c is negative, then numbers have different signs. When you have to factor a trinomial that looks like this, you know the first terms in each binomial will be x. We're using FOIL to think about this. So here are our two sets of parentheses for each binomial. Using FOIL to check, the first term times the first term. X times x will give us x squared. This part is correct, so x will go here and here. This is pretty much true of all of the binomials that we're going to be factoring today. When the minus sign appears here, this is what we know about the factors for that number. One of the factors is positive and one of the factors is negative. When a plus sign appears here, we need to think about those numbers in the factored binomials. Which one is going to be negative and which one is going to be positive. The larger number will appear with a plus sign, and the smaller number will appear with a minus sign. That makes b a positive number. We're going to find the two numbers that will give us the second and third term in the trinomial. In the FOIL process, we do this by multiplying the last numbers in each binomial to give us the third number. This number and this number are added to give us the middle coefficient. Notice we use signs in both steps. When we create the table of factors for this problem, we need to show the minus sign when we write the factor pairs. Here's what that looks like when we set up the table. We want to get a negative c or minus c result, so we're going to multiply our two factors to get the negative c and add them to get b, or the coefficient of the middle term. So a negative number times a negative number will give us a negative result. And we can also check to see if this combination of numbers will give us the coefficient of the middle term. We just need to add them. Make sure you use the minus sign when you do this. You need to get a positive b. This gives you the same number that you get if you did the outside and the inside multiplication in the FOIL process and then added the results. If you get that number, then you factored it correctly. Let's see what it looks like in a problem. Our trinomial is x squared plus 5x minus 24. The minus sign appears here, so this is what we know about the factors for that number. The first terms in each binomial will be x. Because we have a negative 24, that means one of the factors is positive and one of the factors is negative. Here's what happens when the coefficient of the middle term is positive. It means the outside and the inside multiplications using the FOIL process would create a negative and a positive number. When we add them, the result needs to be positive. So let's get our binomials set up. The middle term has a positive coefficient. The smaller number will be with the minus sign, and the larger number will be with the plus sign in our factored pairs. So make a list of factor pairs and keep making them until you find a pair that you can multiply together and get a negative 24. There are many. We have a negative 1 times a positive 24. Multiplying them together, we get a negative 24, and that's consistent with what our trinomial looks like. Add those same two numbers. If you don't get 5, then you need to use another pair of factors. So a negative 1 plus 24 is a positive 23, and we need 5, the coefficient of the middle term. This won't work, so we're going to go to our next factored pairs. We have a negative 2 and a positive 12. A negative 2 times 12 is a negative 24. That's consistent with what we need. A negative 2 plus 12 is 10, and again, we need 5. This one won't work either. Our next factor pairs are negative 3 and 8. A negative 3 times 8 gives us a negative 24. A negative 3 plus 8 will give us a positive 5. Now we have the two numbers that we need. So now I can put into plus 8 here, and I could put a minus 3 here, or they could flip. It wouldn't make any difference if we had a negative 3 in the first binomial and a plus 8 in the second binomial. The results will be the same. Let's check our factorization. This is our original trinomial. Let's check to see if the factorization is right. We'll use the FOIL process. Multiplying the first two terms in each binomial, x times x is x squared. That's consistent with what we see in our trinomial. X times a negative 3, we're multiplying the outside two terms. So we have a negative 3x. We write our number first. Multiplying the inside two terms in each binomial, 8 times x will give us 8x, and we write plus 8x. Multiplying the last two terms in each binomial, 8 times a negative 3 is a negative 24. These terms are alike. Combine them. A negative 3 plus an 8x is going to give us a positive 5x. So now writing our trinomial over again, we have x squared plus 5x minus 24. This matches the original polynomial, and our factorization is correct.